Hi, my name is Ken Down, the Reverend Ken Down. I'm a clergyman, a mediocre organist, and a computer programmer. I believe in using modern media. I enjoy using modern media. I think it makes my sermons more effective. But I don't like PowerPoint. It just doesn't cut it for me. It doesn't do the things I want. So I've spent the last few years writing my own display program, which does pretty much what PowerPoint does, but does it the way I want it to work, and does the things I want. Now, for example, one of the things that I wanted was to be able to underline text in real time. How do you like that? Or to be able to highlight text by drawing circles or shapes around it. And of course you can highlight text in a range of different colors. All done in real time. But it isn't just things that you can do in real time. I like using maps, and so I like to be able to draw on the maps. Now notice how the names of the places in Paul's first missionary journey come up as the line reaches them, and how the line changes colour depending on whether it's going over land or water, and again changes when Paul is on the return journey. And that was achieved just by drawing on the screen and recording the drawing as a text file. My program has its share of gimmicks. One that I find particularly useful, especially when I'm doing talks on archaeology, is the ability to scroll pictures. Horizontally, if the picture is very wide; vertically, if it's a very high picture. If I were to do this as one picture, it would be very long and thin, or it would have a terrible amount of sky in it, and you wouldn't get the detail. Now, the problem is that when your picture is scrolling, you can't actually draw on it. So we have the facility to have scrolling labels and arrows and other shapes on the screen that move with the picture as it scrolls from side to side. I haven't tried it vertically. Maybe I ought to. But that's the advantage of my program. I can do what I want with it. And what is more, you can customize the program by adding in your own specially written features. If you want some assaulting text, write the feature and you can have it. And I like this bit, which is my introduction to my lecture on Jerusalem. I think it's quite effective. Now, as well as that, I live in Wales, where I need to have my presentations in Welsh as well as in English, and sometimes in other languages as well, and sometimes bilingually. Now here, for example, I have the same sermon in 3 different languages, but because of the needs of one particular congregation, those languages are Bulgarian and Romanian. Meanwhile, of course, what I'm looking at is what I call the presenter screen. Now, you can see here that at top left you have the current slide. On the right, beside it, you have the next slide. Below, you have the sermon notes. And I'm going to talk a bit more about those notes in a moment. But they're there on screen so that I don't have to keep shuffling pieces of paper or lose where I am in my notes. Anything like that. I remember one friend of mine who always wrote his sermons out, very full notes, on 5x3 file cards, which was a marvelous idea until the day he was going up into the pulpit and he dropped his cards and discovered that that was the day, that was the week, he hadn't numbered them. Yes, well, then on the right you have the different colors, line widths and line styles that you can use for drawing on the screen. Okay, enough of that. Let's go back to the main display. Yes, you can display your sermon notes on screen. Now, I originally did this for the benefit of a member of my congregation who was deaf. I don't know sign language, and I didn't have anyone in the church, in the congregation, who knew sign language apart from this gentleman. So he was able to follow my sermon because he could read the notes that I was, that underlay what I was saying. Then I discovered that some of the old dears in my congregation whose hearing aids, they had trouble putting them in or trouble setting them to T or whatever, and they found the notes useful. And then I discovered that in this era of Zoom sermons and presentations, having your notes on screen is a marvelous idea because very often the bandwidth is not all that it should be, and the sound breaks up. Zoom seems to favor video over audio. The sound breaks up, but people can still follow what I'm saying because of the notes on screen. But another thing you can do with the notes is that you can have the notes in a different language, so that your main slide is there, but you have it you have your notes in a different language if that's what you want. You can, of course, move the notes around, either on the left or the right, or up the top, depending what fits in with your picture or your particular style for that sermon, or whatever the case may be. Now, another thing that I found useful when doing Zoom sermons is to have my laptop's camera or my computer's camera on, so that people can see what I'm saying, read my body language, that's so important, see my smile or whatever. And you can have the camera in any of the four corners of the screen. You can also adjust the size of the camera to make it larger. You can even, if you're wanting to do an appeal, you can even make it fairly large. Now here you can see how the notes will automatically adapt to the camera position. And then, as I say, you can, if you're making an appeal or you want to emphasize an important point, you can enlarge the camera. Indeed, you can even make it full screen if that is what you feel you need. And then, of course, from within your presentation, so you don't have to be remembering dodgy key presses or anything like that, you can turn the camera and the notes on and off. Now, of course, no sermon would be worth its salt without some singing. So you can have your hymns, you can have the words coming up on screen, but if you are like me and you sing a different part, tenor or bass or alto or whatever, then it would be useful to be able to have the music. And indeed I do. The music is there on screen. And the words are up there in the corner so you can read the words as you go. But notice what happens when you get to the last chorus or the last verse. The borders of the music turns red. Now that is so useful. As an organist, there's been many occasion when I've stopped playing and the audience, the congregation, is standing there with their mouths open ready to sing the next verse. Or, alternatively, they're starting to put their hymn books away and I'm playing another verse and there isn't one. So having this signal that the end of the hymn has been reached is very useful. If you'd like to play around with my program and experiment with it, see whether it does it for you, you can download it for free. I don't make any charge. Anything that'll enhance the Lord's work. You can download it for free from the URL that you see on the screen. And there are full help notes, instructions on how to use the program. There's also a couple of sample or demonstration sermons that you're very welcome to download and play around with, alter, adapt, personalize, and use. God bless.